Just over 1,400 miles from Israel sits the so-called eternal city of Rome. Of course, in Jesus' day, it was the center of the Roman Empire and of the known world as well. Caesar Augustus lived a life there that was so luxurious it was not only beyond anything most of his subjects, including Mary and Joseph, could ever even think of achieving, it was beyond probably what they could even have imagined. Hello and welcome to part 3 of our Christmas story here on Tales from the Scrypt. I'm Louis Marsh, Senior Pastor of River Church, and your host for the show. Stay tuned with me now as we take a look at a taxing situation. Roman historian Dio Cassius tells us that Caesar Augustus was so concerned about the declining marriage and birth rate in the empire that he passed legislation that made promiscuity a crime. It penalized bachelors in their right to inherit and bestowed political and tax advantages on fathers of 3 or more children. Now, it's likely that one of the reasons Caesar authorized this particular census that we see in the New Testament was to see whether or not his legislation was working. Another reason, of course, was to find a way to increase the empire's tax revenue without causing riots or revolts. Yes, even the famed Roman Empire faced budgetary shortfalls. Imagine taking 2 weeks off for everyone to go to their ancestral homes to be counted. Well, it did happen, and we have evidence showing that such traveling was indeed done during the Roman census. You can see right over here the papyrus of one of those pieces of evidence that talk about an actual Roman census. This document was dated 104 AD, it was discovered in Egypt, in which citizens were specifically commanded to return to their original homes for the census. Another census document from about 119 AD has been found, in which an Egyptian man identifies himself by giving 6 different facts about himself, including his and his parents' names, their original village, his age and profession, and this document was signed by the village registrar and 3 official witnesses. You see, we did not invent bureaucracy in modern world. It's been around for a long time. Caesar must have known the chaos he was inflicting upon his people, but he probably didn't lose any sleep over it. He had bigger fish to fry, and as a Roman was more concerned with ensuring the glory of both the empire and of his house, his family, than anything else. Little did he know that he was part of God's plan and that God had picked him specifically for this purpose. Mary was well along in her pregnancy, and Joseph tried to get a waiver for her, but there was none to be had. The Caesar spoke, and the people either obeyed or they answered to the legions of Rome. He consoled her with the thought that this trip was part of making prophecy come true. Micah 5:2 says, "But you, Bethlehem Ephratah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from of old, from ancient times." So they set off. Joseph told Mary he hoped to time it just right so that they could top the rise and see Jerusalem at sunset on the 5th day of their journey. And so it happened. The exhausted young couple saw the golden temple ablaze with beauty as the setting sun spotlighted it before slipping below the horizon. Both agreed that as horrible as Herod was, and he had done one thing right, and that was redoing the temple. As they continued on that evening, it would have been a difficult trip. Nighttime travel was almost unknown during the time of Christ. Only the very desperate or those with absolutely no other choice would travel at night because robbers skulked in the shadows and they believed evil spirits were roaming the night. The road from Jerusalem to Bethlehem curved broadly and climbed steadily. To their left, the drop into the valley was sharp. They could see the shepherds 400 feet below and sometimes even hear them as they whistled at their sheep. Mary was uncomfortable after these many days on the donkey, but made light of her discomfort. Finally, they entered the city of David, and at first both Joseph and his young wife must have shared a sigh of relief. At last, they had arrived, now to find a place to stay and relax, but there were no places to stay. Joseph had never seen any place so jammed with people. There were people everywhere, camping in the town square and along the roads. Every house was full, and the inn had long since been filled to capacity. At that time, Bethlehem consisted of one main road running north and south, with just two cross streets. The inn was on the left, built on a rocky cliff. Joseph quickly found out that there was no room for him there. His heart must have sank. What could he do now? His very pregnant wife needed shelter, and she needed it soon. The situation became even more dire as Mary announced she was beginning to feel what she was sure were labor pains. Joseph went back to the owner of the inn and pleaded his case. His wife needed help and needed a quiet and private place to give birth now. Perhaps it was the owner's wife who reminded her husband of the little cave in the back that served as a stable for their customers' animals. Joseph thanked them and then went to break the humiliating news to Mary. Did he feel shame at being such a poor provider for his wife? Perhaps. But Mary was probably just grateful to have a place to go to prepare for the birth, which was going to happen, and it was going to happen soon. Being rural people, Mary and Joseph knew and understood animals well. They had no trouble moving them around. The sounds and smells of the little cave wouldn't have bothered them at all. According to Jewish custom at that time, all births were to be overseen by a midwife. Midwives were skilled and common in that era. Sometimes they were even called to help at the birth of animals. Did Mary and Joseph have a midwife with them on that holy night? The New Testament, which is the sole source for information about the birth of Jesus, says nothing about it either way. So while it's possible, we simply do not know, and I personally think it's probably very unlikely. Mary would have worn a long-sleeved garment designed to preserve her modesty throughout the birthing process. She would have been experienced at assisting in many births, so she was ready for what she was about to undergo and didn't expect too many surprises. God had brought her to this point, and he would see her through and bring forth his son into the world. As her labor pains increased, Joseph tried, with varying levels of success, to be calm and helpful. Both of them knew God was present with them in the darkness, so they did not fear, but neither of these young people from rural Israel had any idea of the wonders and the terror which lay just ahead of them. I'm Louis Marsh, pastor of River Church in Parker, Arizona, inviting you to be with us next week as we continue our Christmas story with angels, shepherds, and just one child. I'd also like to invite you to check out my other podcast called The Ultimate Sacrifice, about American heroism in battle. Until next time, Merry Christmas and God bless you.